This episode is brought to you by Polestar. There's only one true way to experience the all-electric luxury SUV Polestar 3, and that's to take a test drive. It can go from 0 to 60 in as little as 4.8 seconds with the dynamic handling of a sports car. But to truly understand how it commands the road, you need to be behind the wheel. Up to 350 miles of range, the 3D surround sound system by Bowers & Wilkins. It's all something you have to experience to believe. So book your test drive for Polestar 3 today at polestar.com.
Hey, business owners, we know you know the importance of maximizing every dollar. With the Delta SkyMiles Reserve Business American Express card, you can make your expenses work just as hard as you. From afternoon coffee runs to stocking office supplies and even team dinners, you can earn miles on all your business expenses. Plus, you can earn 110,000 bonus miles for a limited time through July 16th. The Delta SkyMiles Reserve Business Card. If you travel, you know. Minimum spending requirements and terms apply. Offer ends 7/16/25.
This is the Tudors, Dynasty, and Beyond podcast. History with a twist. And now your host, Rebecca Larson.
Welcome to the show. I'm Rebecca Larson, independent researcher, writer, and host here on Tudors, Dynasty, and Beyond. Every Sunday, I bring you a storytelling episode where we dive into the life of one fascinating figure from history. Most often, it's a remarkable woman, but not always. These episodes are all about exploring the people and moments that shaped history in bold, unexpected ways. Today, we're setting sail into the bold and rebellious world of Anne Bonny, the original fiery redhead from Ireland who left behind the quiet life expected of her and dove headfirst into piracy. She wore men's clothing, fought like hell, and loved just as fiercely. With Mary Read by her side and Calico Jack at the helm, Mary wasn't just riding the waves, she was commanding them. And as a fellow redhead myself, I've got to say, we do tend to come with a little extra spark. Born in Ireland in the 1690s, Anne Bonny entered the world under a cloud of scandal. Her father, William Cormac, a respected lawyer, had an affair with a household maid, Mary Brennan. Their daughter, Anne, was hidden from society, even dressed as a boy to keep her identity secret. But the truth came out, and with his reputation on the line, William fled Ireland with Mary and young Anne in tow. Their destination? The colony of South Carolina. There, William rebuilt his life as a prosperous merchant and plantation owner. For a time, the future looked bright. But at just 13 years old, Anne's world shifted again when her mother died of typhoid fever. Anne's father was ambitious for her future, arranging a match with a respectable local man. But Anne had no interest in the life that he had envisioned. Instead, she married a solicitor named James Bonny, against her father's wishes. The couple left for New Providence Island in the Bahamas, a bustling haven for pirates. And it was there that Anne's path took a dramatic turn. At the time, Pirate Jack Rackham, better known as Calico Jack, had just risen through the ranks. Formerly the quartermaster and second in command to the notorious Charles Vane, Jack had proven himself both charismatic and cunning. Together with their crew, they sailed the waters of the Caribbean and along the eastern coast of North America. In August of 1718, Vane rejected a royal pardon and boldly fired upon Governor Woodes Rogers, then vanished back to sea. But by November, his reluctance to attack a well-armed French frigate caused unrest among his men. The crew turned on him, deposed him, and named Calico Jack as their new captain. Anne soon left her husband behind and joined Calico Jack's crew. No small feat for a woman in the early 18th century. Disguised under the name Bon, she adopted the clothing and mannerisms of a man. But let's be clear, her true identity wasn't exactly a mystery. The crew knew who she was, and they didn't seem to mind. So, how did a woman not only survive, but thrive among hardened pirates? Anne fought alongside them as they raided merchant ships off the coast of Jamaica, earning a fierce reputation in her own right. She was bold, outspoken, and known for telling vivid tales from her past. One story reportedly involved a violent encounter with a would-be attacker, whom she claimed to have beaten so severely he required hospitalization. Anne Bonny's rise as a pirate took place during what's now known as the Golden Age of piracy, a period in the early 18th century when piracy surged throughout the Caribbean and along the eastern coast of North America. These waters, thick with merchant ships carrying goods, became prime hunting grounds. Captured cargo was often quickly offloaded and sold on nearby islands or funneled into European colonies. But piracy wasn't confined to the Americas. Some crews ventured even farther, raiding off the coast of West Africa or anchoring in the Indian Ocean, where Madagascar became a strategic outpost. Even ships engaged in the transatlantic slave trade were not off limits. While there are stories of pirates freeing the enslaved, those moments were the exception, not the rule. In truth, most pirate crews treated enslaved people much like the traders they attacked, selling them for profit once they reached land. But for Anne Bonny, piracy wasn't just all about profit. It was about defiance. And what came next would test her loyalty, her courage, and her place among legends, because history was about to catch up with her. Anne Bonny sailed during the same era as some of the most infamous figures in pirate history. One of them was Captain William Kidd, a name still surrounded by mystery and legend. Kidd is remembered for tales of buried treasure supposedly hidden along remote coastlines and never recovered, despite centuries of searching. Another towering figure of the time was Edward Teach, better known as Blackbeard. With slow-burning fuses woven into his thick beard and a fearsome presence aboard every ship he approached, Blackbeard became a symbol of terror across the seas. His reputation alone was often enough to force crews into surrender without a fight. Anne Bonny wasn't the only woman to etch her name into the annals of pirate history. Sailing beside her was Mary Read, just as bold, just as battle-hardened. The two worked together, perhaps because their lives had followed remarkably similar paths, shaped by hardship, secrecy, and survival. Mary Read's story begins in the shadows. Her father vanished early on, lost perhaps to the perils of life at sea. Her mother, pregnant by another man, fled London to give birth in secret. While she was away, tragedy struck again. Mary's older brother died. In desperation, her mother devised a bold deception. She dressed young Mary as a boy and passed her off as the surviving son in order to continue receiving support from her late husband's family. Remarkably, the plan succeeded. A modest stipend followed, just enough to live on. Mary would spend her youth hidden behind the false identity, a disguise that soon became a means of survival. She worked first as a footman, then aboard a British warship, where women were forbidden to serve. Disguised once again, Mary entered the military world, fighting under a man's name and proving herself in combat. It was the beginning of a journey that would lead her across oceans, into battle, and eventually into the ranks of piracy's most legendary figures. But the golden days of piracy were drawing to a close. And for Anne Bonny and her crew, the end came swiftly. On the 15th of November, 1720, off the coast of Negro Point, Jamaica, the crew was caught off guard. While drinking with a group of English sailors they had invited aboard, their ship was suddenly surrounded. The ambush had been led by Captain John Barnett, a privateer acting under the orders of Governor Woodes Rogers, whose mission was to stamp out piracy once and for all. Panic erupted, as most of the male pirates fled below deck in a desperate attempt to hide. It was Anne Bonny and Mary Read who stood their ground. Armed, defiant, and outnumbered, the two women were the only ones who chose to fight. But the odds were impossible. The entire crew was captured and hauled ashore, where they were locked away in the dark, disease-ridden cells of a Jamaican prison. Just weeks later, on the 28th of November, 1720, Anne and Mary were brought to trial, tried separately from the men. The charge was piracy. The punishment, if found guilty, death by hanging. Despite eyewitness accounts and damning testimony from victims of their attacks, every member of the crew, including Anne and Mary, pleaded not guilty. No defense was offered. No justification given. And one by one, the guilty verdicts were handed down. The sentence, execution. But English law made one exception. Pregnant women could not be hanged. The reasoning was simple. While the mother may have been guilty, the unborn child was not. Both Anne Bonny and Mary Read claimed to be pregnant. The court ordered examinations, and both claims were confirmed. It was a temporary reprieve, but not a path to freedom. In 1721, Mary died in prison, likely of fever. She was buried on the 28th of April. Her name recorded in the parish register of St. Catherine. Whether her child survived remains a mystery. What became of Anne Bonny remains one of the enduring mysteries of the golden age of piracy. Some accounts suggest she escaped prison or was quietly granted a pardon. However she found her way to freedom, if indeed she did, one legend claims that she became the mistress of Robert Fenwick, a former pirate who had once roamed the Red Sea and later settled into wealth and comfort near Charleston, South Carolina. At Fenwick Castle, it's said Anne lived a life of ease, at least for a time. According to the story, she eventually ran off with another man. But Fenwick, powerful and possessive, tracked them down. Her lover was hanged, and Anne returned, whether by force or choice. We can only guess. Well, that's one version. Another suggests that she never left Jamaica. A parish record from December 1733 notes the death of Anne Bonny. If that entry refers to her, then the fiery pirate who once defied a world built to contain her may have died in quiet obscurity. No dramatic trial, no gallows, just a name in a register. We may never know the truth, but perhaps that's fitting. Because if there's one thing history has taught us about pirates, especially women like Anne Bonny, it's this. Just when the world thought it had caught them, they disappeared. Thank you for joining me on this episode. I'm Rebecca Larson, and I'll see you next time as we continue exploring the lives and legends that shaped our history.
Thanks for listening to Tudors, Dynasty, and Beyond. If you enjoyed the episode, please take a moment to follow or subscribe wherever you're listening so you never miss a new release. And if you loved it, leave a quick review. It helps more history lovers find the show. Want to support the podcast and get bonus content? Head to patreon.com/tutorsdynasty. You can also find the link in the show notes of this episode. Join the conversation with Rebecca on social media at Tudors Dynasty. Until next time.